Okay, let's get to our panel. Joining us tonight is Federal Labor MP for Hunter, Joel Fitzgibbon, and YouTubing commentator Daisy Cousens. Happy New Year to your team.
Yes, Happy New Year, team.
Happy New Year to you too.
Isn't it good
I'm worried about you, Chris.
Why?
Well, you're working too hard, mate. I hear you on the radio in the mornings and on Sky at night. There's got to be a bit of time for some golf and a glass of wine or a beer or something better.
Not now. It's only a cameo, Joel. It's only a cameo. It's okay. China has blocked the arrival of a team from the World Health Organization investigating the origins of the coronavirus pandemic, claiming that their visas had not yet been approved, even as some members were on their way. Daisy, can I start with you? This looks just so bad for China, doesn't it?
Oh, it looks absolutely dreadful for China, Chris, but honestly, I don't know why anyone would be surprised that China has done this. Oh, sorry, suddenly your visas aren't ready, so you can't come in and investigate the coronavirus. And we've got to remember here that China has been protecting themselves and protecting the narrative regarding the origins of coronavirus right since the get-go. I mean, the big criticism of them initially was that when cases were emerging in December 2019, they weren't upfront about it. They delayed telling the World Health Organization. I believe it was in April last year. There were a number of university papers that were released and then deleted from certain university websites in China that, made some allegations that the CCP didn't like, and then, of course, remember, they tried to blame the US for starting COVID. They blamed US soldiers, for goodness sake. Most recently, they tried to blame Australia, for goodness sake, for bringing the coronavirus into China via export on packaging, for God's sake. So none of this should be surprising. Of course, China is again trying to protect the narrative. They must not get away with it, though. This must be investigated thoroughly with great courage and perseverance, because it is extremely important, to state the bleeding obvious.
Joel, it's a great change not to have Australia being kicked and mauled by China. It's good to see the World Health Organization take them on for a change.
Yes, they've been pretty considered in their approach to the World Health Organization, Chris. Look, I'll make a prediction on your program tonight, and if it proves to be wrong, I'm sure you'll remind me of it next Wednesday night. But this won't be a story within 24 hours. China can't afford to look anything but cooperative on this international inquiry. They're working hard at building their soft power around the world. It's part of their Belt and Road initiative, and it would be a terrible look for China if they kept investigators out of their country for this important inquiry. I don't believe they can afford to do so.
Are you suggesting this is legitimately a visa problem here?
Well, I saw the WHO, the World Health Organization spokesperson, I think he was, saying that, or conceding it could be just a bureaucratic cock-up. I hope it is. But I'm very certain that China cannot afford to further damage its international reputation by being so silly as to block those international inspectors. It's just not possible. I don't think it will happen. I think it'll be fixed pretty quickly.
I hope you're right. I do hope you're right, but I'll just record that and keep it.
Yes, I'm sure you will.
For next week. More than 50 pro-democratic activists have reportedly been arrested on suspicion of breaking the city's controversial national security laws in the biggest crackdown yet since the laws came in. Nothing has changed since Tiananmen Square in 1989, Daisy. Protest and you're gone.
It's just outrageous, isn't it? I mean, when you look at this from kind of a Western democratic context, it is just mind-boggling that this can be happening in a country around the world. But that's what we need to remember about China. It is not a liberal capitalist democracy by any stretch of the imagination. It is a very, very different kind of country with very, very different values. And certainly one of those values is not democracy. I mean, we've been seeing this in Hong Kong for months and months and months now. This crackdown on pro-democracy candidates and pro-democracy protesters. So this is sort of the next logical step in that progression. And I think Look, as we go forward, I understand the sentiment that rebuilding our relationship with China is important from a trade perspective. I believe it's something like 40% of Australia's exports go to China. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a very large chunk. So I understand the kind of will to repair this relationship. But the bottom line is we need to remember who we are here. We need to remember our values. And I do think that China should be treated, at least in some big ways, as a hostile foreign power. And while I'm not a strategist, I'm very glad that I'm not in the government making these decisions. Perhaps we need to think creatively. Surely there are trade opportunities with, say, the UK, for instance, post-Brexit. I'm sure they're hungering for some new trade deals around the world. So maybe going forward, we need to think creatively regarding our relationship with China, and we must not turn a blind eye to this kind of stuff.
Joel, you've got a differing view. You want to kiss and make up with them, don't you?
Well, your words, Chris, not mine, but I absolutely disagree with Daisy. I mean, treating China as a hostile enemy is the worst possible thing Australia could do. It is our largest trading partner, and that commerce can't be offset by opportunities elsewhere, particularly on value as opposed to volume. We have to engage with China. We don't like everything China does. We don't like the model they operate under. But we don't have much influence over what China does or what form of government it chooses to embrace. We need to deal with them as they are. And the best way to influence the way they do things, of course, is to engage more heavily with them and to respect them as the emerging superpower of the global community. That is just a reality we have to face. The Americans understand that. Kicking sand in their face won't build that relationship. Deep engagement will, and we need to be smart about this, Chris. It is a very, very important trading relationship, but of course, peace in our region will be underpinned by the way we all behave. Yeah, and we all have to behave maturely. We need to get back to some diplomatic statecraft and start behaving like adults rather than throwing stones at one another on a regular basis. Are you putting your hands up to be part of some posse sent to Beijing? No, I'm not, Chris. No. Right. No. Sounded like it. I'm not even sure what that means. Oh, you think I could be? You think I could be the emissary? Yes. To Beijing? Yes. Whitlam style. Emissary. Yes. Oh well, I'm up for anything. All right, there you go. ScoMo, we'll get a text to him quick, smart. Daisy, just a quick comment about these delays getting people back to our CBDs. We don't have a defined hotspot in the country. We don't have clusters in the CBD of Melbourne and Sydney, but everything is being delayed and everyone is being allowed to stay at home. Is that what we want?
No, of course it's not, and I think that it is just so sad that that's happening for a number of reasons. I mean, the most obvious is the businesses that will suffer now with not as many people coming back to work. I mean, you think of all those cafes where office workers go to get their morning coffee, the big rush there. Of course, there's, the lunch hour. There's a lot of business that will be missed here. And then of course, there's I guess what you'd call the societal aspect of that. I mean, I work from home as a matter of course because I'm a YouTuber, and I go absolutely stir-crazy. There are times where I feel like I haven't got a friend in the world because I don't have any contact in the day. And if you're not used to that, that must be just doing people's heads in. It's terrible for people's mental health. And as you quite rightly mentioned, there isn't a defined hotspot in Australia. And aside from anything else, New South Wales Health in particular is incredibly comprehensive with their list of locations that could be a potential risk. Yes. right down to 3-minute train trips. People know where to avoid. It's very easy to do so. So it's sort of, tacitly encouraging people staying away from the entirety of the CBD would seem to be overkill and very unfair.
Yeah, exactly. Very quickly, Joel, did you have a chance while you were on your break to work on your golf handicap?
Not as much as I would have liked, Chris. The backbench is not proving as quite for me as I had planned, but had a game today. I had 38 points. So here's my opportunity to boast that. Great. So it could be worse, but it's inconsistency is probably the thing that most marks my golf game.
Yeah, join the club. Joel, Daisy, thank you very much. See you next week.